Good evening, Coyote fans. Welcome to episode 9 of the Howling podcast. My name is Jordan Decker. I'm joined tonight by fellow Coyote fans Chad Berger and Mark Wendt. You can catch us on X at Howl with Us 3. That's the number 3 at Howl with Us 3. Catch myself on Twitter at JD6OP5, JD6OP5. Mark at WDiamond605. And then Chad at Chad Berger, Birger. As always, to start off the show, a quick disclaimer: the opinions on this show are strictly ours and not of those of the university or the athletic department. Tonight's show is once again brought to you by the Wakanda Peach Company. Out of Wakanda, South Dakota, Wakanda Peach Company, where all your peach dreams come true. Gentlemen, welcome back and happy #Beat State Week.
How we doing?
Glad to be back with you guys on Sunday night. Good week this past week, and excited to talk about what happened this past week and what's coming up. And we even have a special guest with us tonight, so it's going to be a good show. All right, well, let's go ahead and jump in next, and we will talk about what did happen this past week. Couple results. Cross country participated in the Wisconsin pre-nationals out in Madison, Wisconsin. The women finished 26th overall. Madison Brower was the top individual finisher at 94th. The men finished in 22nd overall, with Caleb Rivera coming in 37th to be the top Yote. Women's swimming had a dual meet against Iowa State, and Iowa State scored 179 and USD 119. USD did get big wins by Gabby Arndt and Grace Schultz, so that was a great job by the Yotes there. Soccer participated on Thursday up in Grand Forks, and the final score was USD 1, UND 1, so South Dakota won that one 1-1. And then on Sunday the 20th, playing up in Fargo, NDSU unfortunately scored 4 to USD's 2. Football played Saturday at Youngstown State, USD 27, Youngstown State 17. We'll go through that in a little more detail later on. And volleyball was at home this past week, Thursday night, playing Kansas City, coming out on top 3-1. And then Saturday hosting the Bison from NDSU and coming out victorious 3-2. So big week for USD, and lots of good results on the positive end there. But we're going to kind of step away from what's actually, what happened this past week, and we're going to talk about what is coming up over the next couple months here. And so we have a special guest with us today. Coach Peterson, the men's basketball coach from USD, is with us tonight. Welcome, Coach.
What's up, guys? How we doing?
Hey, Coach.
No place I'd rather be on a Sunday evening than chopping it up with you guys.
Nothing else going on tonight. So, this is a great.
We moved you ahead of the line, Coach. There's a long line, a list of people to get on, and we made sure
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. The Packers already won today, so we're good. I don't have to watch Sunday Night Football, and I can just relax.
Ordinarily, during this segment, we have Dr. Oyen come on and do a little psychoanalysis with Jordan. So Jordan's probably happy that he's not on the couch tonight.
I'm kind of feeling a little stressed, not going to lie. So, Coach Pete, if you have any, we can talk afterwards, if we want to.
We'll talk for sure.
All right. Well, Coach, saw you last in March, Summit League tournament. You guys had a disappointing loss there in the first round. What have you been doing since then?
Yeah, a lot. I feel like that was a long time ago, right? Recruiting. I feel like that's an all-year thing where you're just around the clock, trying to adjust and modify your roster a little bit. There's a lot going on with the NCAA, and obviously a lot of changes in the last couple of years. And I think it's really helped our league. Our league is better. I think the bottom is definitely better. If you look at what we did last year, we lost a lot of close games. 5 games by just over 3 points per game. And, 5 games takes you from where we finished to second place. That's how tight it was. So recruiting's a huge, vital piece of our program. We hired a couple new assistant coaches. We hired a couple new admin guys. brought in 4 transfers, brought in 3 freshmen. So it's been quite the summer, actually spring and summer. We got to go on a foreign tour this past summer. We went to Italy, which was awesome. We spent 12 days over there, played 3 games. We were all over the place. Aggressive schedule. We were 8 cities in those days, and we were seeing everything. Awesome experience for our guys just to spend time together. When you add new pieces and pieces that I think are vital pieces to our program, you got to mix them in with the old guys, right? The new guys got to get mixed in with the old guys. So I thought that was awesome for us. This fall, we gave them a little bit of time off just because we took the foreign tour. With the tour, you get 10 extra practices. So we actually practiced, I think here, almost 22 times as a team this summer with our regular hours plus the 10 extra practices. So gave them a little bit of a break this fall. And then, everyone's like, hey, happy first day of practice. And it's like, we practice all year round. What are we talking about here? I don't even know when the first day of practice actually is. So it's been busy. Personally, not a whole lot. I bought a small fishing boat, like a 14-foot fishing boat. You try to do what your kids love, right? And I'm an awful golfer, but my kids like to golf. And I'm an average fisherman, and my kids like to fish. So I got a little 14-foot boat that we plop into some reservoirs around here and catch some bass. My son, probably about a month ago, caught a 7-pound bass, believe it or not. So he's already on the board, and he won't stop talking about it. So great summer. Really happy about our team, happy about our progress and where we're going.
Coach, so I'm going to piggyback off your recruiting comment there. I'm always curious, especially in men's basketball. It seems to hit men's a lot more in this NIL and portal era. How do you put a team together for not only this coming year, but for future years with all that going on?
Yeah, that's the hardest part. There's a lot of questions like when you offer a younger guy or you want to offer a younger guy, and there's been some offers that we've talked about, and it's like, man, I don't even know if we have that position. Like, do you want me to offer you a scholarship, or do you want me to wait till we know we need your spot? So it's a little bit tricky that way. I think, with us, we're relationship people. So it's just developing relationships. So if a spot does open up, you can move on it quickly. And it's not like, oh, now we need this. Let's go try to find this. And now you're spending a month and a half trying to build a relationship. It doesn't work like that, especially with high school kids. With transfers, it has to happen a lot quicker. A lot of the transfers that we've taken, or almost all of them, there's been some prior connection to with me or somebody on our team. Last year with Boston and Lahad, I coached those guys, right? Caleb, I recruited when I was at Utah State. You look at some guys this year, Ashton, I recruited when I was at Utah State. Dre was Caleb's teammate, and he was at Triton. And one of my best friends used to coach at Triton. So there's a connection there. And then, believe it or not, I recruited Chase for like 2 weeks. And finally, Dre was like, Coach, Dre was committed. He's like, Coach, we're high school teammates, right? I was like, no, I had no idea. You could have told me that and saved me a little bit of time. So it happened pretty quickly after I knew that. But I don't know how to answer that question, Mark. Like, you got to be on your toes. You got to, there's a lot of coaches that don't like it, right? With what's going on. And they're frustrated, but this is what I signed up for, right? So you got to be on your toes. You have to have a great staff. And I really think we have a good staff. We have the right people on our staff. And, as a head coach, you need a lot of help, right? A lot of people are going to make me look really smart by doing their jobs. And, when you have a great staff, it makes your job a lot easier.
Coach, not to have you repeat some of the same things, but I think a lot of Yote fans and just the way that the transfers work, right, with a lot coming in, I think you got a pretty good balance of core group of guys that are coming back, and then I think a really stellar group of guys coming in. But can you kind of walk through, who's still here from, the past few seasons, and then who's coming in, and what do they bring to the table to USD? Like, what should we expect of those transfers coming in?
Yeah. So I think we got 7 guys back from last year's team. And, that's the hard part. We put the roster together, and, Lahat was our only senior. And I think some people forget that. Boston went to Florida State, which I was really happy for him. I had a great relationship with him. And if a player wants to leave and go to a higher level to get some of those resources, like, who am I to tell him no? Like, you can't do that. So you just got to kind of cheer him on, and I've stayed in touch with Boston that way. But so two major losses there. Outside of that, Max Burchill's back, Paul Bruns is back, Caleb Stewart's back. Caleb's preseason first team all conference. Really like Jake Brack. Jake's been playing extremely well for us. Mayum Boom is back. You can just go right down the line. We have some really good pieces back. I think Kansas City is probably number one with returners as far as what they bring back. We're right behind them at 2, and I think NDSU is 3. So I'm happy with what we got back. Guys that played and had an impact. I think our fans are really going to like seeing Shea. Shea broke his foot last year and did a medical red shirt. So I was really excited about him, and obviously got hurt, I think, about a week before the first game, and maybe could have come back, but it was one of those deals where it's like, hey, you can try it, but if you play in a certain amount of games, you're probably not getting a medical red shirt. So at the time, just thought it was maybe a little bit safer to medical redshirt him and have him for 4 years. So I'm really excited about him. But guys that are coming into our program, I think there was a huge part of us last year that we didn't have a true point guard. I thought Boston did a great job filling in for that. But Boston was our 4-man at Utah, right? So a little bit different role for him. I thought he was peaking towards the end of the year and getting a lot better. And I tell everybody this, like, if you look at the numbers in February and March, we were scoring the most points of any team in the league. Our offense was really good. And then the season came to an end, right? We were trending the right way, played in a lot of tight games. We were getting better. You could obviously see the progress. And after a season, obviously disappointing loss, right? In Sioux Falls, we just beat Oral Roberts, I think 10 days before. You always step back and look at the deficiencies in your program. Number one, you lose Lahat, right? So we brought in 2 bigs. And if you look at our numbers, like I'm a very analytic guy. So we were like bottom 2 in the country in block shots, right? So as far as like having a good defense, when you have no rim protection, that makes it a lot harder to have a great defense. And nothing wrong with Lahat. Lahat was one of the best low post scorers in our league. We were just missing some rim protection. So we brought in Cam Fens from UIC, legit 7 feet, about as wide as my door right there. Played really well for us this summer in Italy, and has gotten better and better since he's been in our program. And a lot of it too is like when guys come from different programs, it's about trying to instill confidence in them, right? There's a reason why they're leaving. And the players that we get that come down levels are probably because they didn't play, right? Or didn't play in the role that they wanted to. So it's just breathing life and confidence in players. And I think Cam's become really, really confident, and he's been a great rim protector for us. Ashton Smith, another one, came from in-league in Oral Roberts. Like I said, I recruited Ashton at Utah State probably for a couple months. He played the AAU circuit in April and had, 15 high major offers, went to Texas A&M and went to Oral Roberts after their phenomenal run in the NCAA tournament. And same deal, they kind of played 3 bigs, and Ashton, some games played, some games didn't. And the games that I watched Ashton play, they were very good in. And, he's a rim protector. He's big, strong, thick, athletic, great in screen and roll. And we have a lot more guys that can play in screen and roll. So excited about Ashton and Cam as our bigs and just adding some rim protection to our program. Going back to the reason why we need rim protection, you get some guards, right? So Boston kind of filled in at the point guard spot. We have a true point guard now, Chase Forte. Chase is a dynamic dude. If you look at the definition of Gata, Chase is Gata. Like, he gets after their butts nonstop. This summer, he led us in rebounding in Italy, right? For a point guard to lead your team in rebounding is it's different, right? And it says something about the way we're playing. We're playing a little bit differently. But Chase, he led us in assists. His assist to turnover ratio is great. Just a true point guard, but can score it a little bit, really downhill, tries to get 2 feet in the paint, and can really make plays for others. And then his high school teammate, which I mentioned, Dre Bullock, is one of the most athletic guys I've coached at any level. And that's tough for me to say because I've been at Utah State in the Mountain West. I've been in the Pac-12. Dre is a phenomenal athlete, and just so happened he led the country in 3-point shooting last year, shot 50% from 3. and was really trending the right way towards the end of the season. And when you look at our league last year, I think was number 2 or 3 in offensive efficiency. It was 3 in 3-point shooting. It's been 1 a lot throughout the years. And I think Dre is a phenomenal fit for the Summit League. But what I look at mainly, like our deficiency wasn't offense late last year. It was defense, right? We didn't force many turnovers. I would say if we had a deficiency on offense, it was we turned the ball over way too much, right? So when you're turning it over and you're not forcing turnovers, that's like a lose-lose situation right there. So having a true point guard that's going to take care of the ball, and then having some guards that can really guard the ball and heat people up. And when we do that, having rim protection behind them, I think is really, really going to help our defense. So that was a lot right there. We brought in 3 freshmen that I really like. Porter Enan from Lennox, 6'6". He comes in the first day and he deadlifts 450. I'm not sure how many football players are coming in and deadlifting 450 on the first day. And I mean, that was the most on our team. Really like him. And the hardest part with these freshmen is we have 6 seniors, right? So you put them out there, they're 18 years old and they're going against grown men, and the game is just a lot faster, right? Evan Anderson from Onalaska, Wisconsin has been great for us, getting better every single week. Really happy with his progress, just is always in the right spot and does the right thing. And then Oliver Kokal is another guy from St. Louis that I really like. He's a Gata guy. He's kind of like an undersized Jake Brack, and has brought some value to our program as well. So, I wish, I could get on this podcast and say, hey, we have our whole team back, but I don't think that's ever going to be a possibility for us. And there's going to be always, replacing half our team at this level. It's pretty normal. So thankful that we got the guys back, and hopefully, we're not sweating it out this year. We're making the same mistakes late because these guys are a year older, right? A little bit more mature, and they've been in those situations, right? You get to the Summit League tournament, everyone's looking around like, other than Max and Paul, like, wow, this place is pretty cool. And it's like, no, guys, lock in. We got a game to play. And I think that was the biggest thing after that game is, you prepare, and we just played them 10 days earlier, but I don't think we were ready for that environment, that many people. I tell everyone this, that the Summit League tournament is better than the Pac-12 tournament. The Pac-12 is now coming back, but that thing was in T-Mobile Arena, and there wasn't that many fans there, right? And the Mountain West tournament was pretty good, but when we played in the championship game in 2016, I think it was 16. There was like over 11,000 people there, and that environment was crazy. So I think that was a little bit of a shock to our new guys, and it shouldn't be a shock to our returners coming back when we play it this year.
Coach, you had kind of talked about, the Kansas City obviously has a lot of guys returning. They were picked to number 1 in the preseason rankings. You guys were picked number 7 in those preseason rankings. How do you kind of rate the preseason rankings and where you were picked this year?
Yeah, like how do you even rank in the preseason? It's becoming like, why are we doing this? Like UND had 2 guys on first team all league, and they were picked 6. Is that right? I'd have to go back and look.
Yeah, 6. Yep.
Kansas City deserves that, right? They finished second. They were trending in the right direction. They return a lot. I think they added some good pieces. South Dakota State was picked second. They're very young. They have a really good center that started in the Pac-12 for Washington State. But a lot of it's just like off respect, right? And you have to earn respect. We were picked 9th at Utah State my first year, and we won the league, right? I think the last time we won the league at South Dakota, we were picked 7th or 8th. So I don't know if it really means anything. I don't post it on the walls in our locker room. We talked about it right after it happened. And I told our guys, like, this is what people think of you, and we got a lot to get done before the conference season starts to prove people wrong. And I think our non-conference schedule sets us up for success, right? Like we finally had control over our schedule, that we could play who we wanted to play, and we weren't locked into 2-year deals. And I think our non-conference schedule is great. Good mix. We actually play some home games. That's been a long time since we've played home games. 8 of our 15 non-conference games are at home. But I don't know. It came out the day that we were at Media Day in Sioux Falls, and I really haven't thought about it since. I'm so just focused on our team, how to make us better every single day. And I think if you're too locked into that stuff, you kind of get lost in the madness. And it's madness when you're trying to rank teams preseason and 90% of the league lost half their team, right? Like, I don't know. NDSU got 5 transfers, and I saw one of them play at VMI because we played them. So I'm not going to go watch film on those guys and try to rank the teams, right? So I don't know what it means. It's tough to answer, and eventually maybe they go away with preseason polls because I'm not sure how much weight they're going to hold. And you guys should go through it after the tournament in March and dissect it and see what's accurate and see how far everyone's off. It's your
That's a
homework
great
assignment.
idea. Great idea. I'll try to bring that up. Real quick, before we move on, if you're watching out there on YouTube right now, you can comment. And if you have a question for Coach, we might be able to show those on the air. So go ahead and put your questions in the comments.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned your new assistant coaches. Could you tell us a little bit about each of those dudes?
Yeah. So first guy I hired was Dwight Smith. Dwight played for Craig Smith and Tim Miles at Colorado State. He actually played with at Colorado State with Carlton Hurst. If you guys remember Carlton, Carlton was like our 6'1", 6'2", tough, strong, athletic wing. When we won the league, he was our best defender. So there was some connection there. Dwight came from Salt Lake Community College, right in Salt Lake City. So obviously a connection just with me being in Salt Lake previously. Got to know Dwight a long time ago, and we actually recruited Dwight our first year here at South Dakota. He made the wrong mistake, or he made a mistake. He made the wrong move and went to Northern Colorado. I think that's where he transferred to. And I think he knows he made a mistake. So he was always trying to get back to USD in some way, shape, or form. So we got him back as an assistant coach. Dwight he's from Omaha. So awesome to have a Midwest guy. And he's very defensive minded, defensive orientated, handles a lot of our junior college recruiting, does a lot of our Midwest recruiting once you go south of Vermilion. Really happy to have Dwight on staff. Sean Smith, no relation to Ashton or Dwight. Sean came from North Park in Chicago. 2 years ago, he was the Division III National Coach of the Year. Sean can really coach. Sean worked with one of my best friends at Wisconsin Lutheran. His name's Aaron Onenson. I went to college with him at Wisconsin Lacrosse, and we've been good friends ever since. And I got hired, and Aaron called me. He's like, "Hey, I got the perfect guy for you." And he was an assistant at a D3, and I'm just kind of like, man, there's some really good dudes on the board. Let's get him a few more years of experience. Well, he ended up getting the North Park job, crushed it in year one. And, when a position came open, Sean was one of the first guys I talked to. And he's going to do a lot of our defensive stuff too, a lot of our pressing stuff. I think you'll see a difference in our style of play where we're going to press a lot more. We pressed on every dead ball last year, but I think we'll press, 99% of the game now off makes, misses, dead balls, free throws, you name it. And Sean will do a lot of that for us. He'll handle our Wisconsin recruiting, our Illinois recruiting, and we're trying to get back into Illinois. One of our best players of all time, Matt Mooney, came from Illinois. So that's a awesome area for us, and we have a lot of alum there too. So hired him. The other two guys, Mike Russell. Mike was at Black Hills State. He played there, made a Final Four, and then coached in a Final Four. Really good Division II program. Ryan Thompson is the head coach at Black Hills in South Dakota. Ryan actually grew up about 30 minutes from me. So I've known him since he's been in high school, and almost all my relatives are from his hometown. So there's a connection there. I really trust him, and everything he said about Mike checked out. Mike's really, really good. And then last guy, Dylan Gross. Dylan's from Madison. Made the mistake, was a manager at the school up north, got him down to Mount Marty. And when I talked to him, the ops position it's different, right? There's some guys that they're ops, but they really want to coach basketball. And then some of the stuff behind the scenes starts to slip where, man, the bus isn't on time, or, well, I was doing reading the scouting report or whatever. Dylan comes to me. He's like, "Coach, I want to be an ops guy. I want to be an ops guy at the highest level. The basketball stuff, cool, but I want to make sure everything's taken care of behind the scenes." And I'm telling you guys, like, that's super rare for somebody to say that. So it was a really, really good fit. Dylan came from Mount Marty with Colin Authier over there. We played them every year since I've been here, and I've known Colin since he's been an assistant at Augustana. I was an assistant at Minnesota State Moorhead when I first met him, so I've known him forever, and Dylan's doing a great job for us. So that is the staff. Hopefully we can hold on to some of these guys for a few years. It's always difficult when you are recruiting 7 new players, and you have 4 new staff members. But really good fits for our staff, and we're looking for guys that are all like-minded as players and staff members, and I finally feel like we got that.
Coach, with the 7 guys coming back, and then with the transfers coming in, I like Mark and Chad we've seen the videos of these guys. Personally, I think you're going to break the all-time dunk record for the amount of dunks in a season this year. And you alluded to the defense a little bit as far as like pressure and pressing, right? But can you tell us, right out of the gates, what is this Coyotes team going to look like stylistically, offensively, defensively? Are we seeing a little bit of a change compared to last year? You don't have to go into too much detail, obviously,
Yeah.
but what are we
No, I
expecting out
can.
of the gates?
I think I had to change my philosophy a little bit when everything's changing every year. And I don't know, like, shoot, we could lose 10 players next year. We have 6 seniors, we could lose 10 players, right? So when you're bringing new guys in, how we did it the first time here is we were able to get guys back. Like, honestly, guys, the spring was like boring. I was trying to find like teams to do scouting reports on to learn in the spring because I didn't have anything to do. We were recruiting younger guys, but now in the spring, you are just recruiting transfers, trying to find out every piece of information about those guys as fast as possible. So you're on the phone nonstop, and it's crazy. I went to the Final Four in Scottsdale or Glendale this year, Phoenix, and my wife was with me. And every time, like we're just in the car going somewhere, and I'm on the phone, and she's just looking at me like, "Aren't we supposed to like enjoy the Final Four?" And I'm like, honey, it don't work like that, right? Like there's a job to do. That's what's different. The team is going to be different every year. So when we were here the last time, we could count on the guys coming back for the most part, right? Not leaving. And you could run a system and have continuity, and the guys would get smarter every year. And you could add stuff to the system, like how you're scouting, how you're defending, some complex things on offense. Where now I feel like you got to keep it way more simple because your roster is going to be different every year. Like, guys, honestly, like, first year, a lot of guys I didn't recruit, had some good players, right? But you're trying to make all the pieces fit. Didn't quite work out, right? We all know that. Brought in a lot of young guys last year, and we were able to retain them, surprisingly enough. And I think that's part of how we finished, right? We didn't have a great year, so a lot of guys, had to chip on their shoulder, like, "Hey, we're coming back. We're going to do this thing." But if you're losing players every year, it's hard to build and build and build and fully build a program. I still think you can do it in some capacity, but we have to take the best players we can get every single year and try to piece it together. So if you're trying to do complex stuff, like last year, we figured it out, but it was too late, right? I wish we would have figured it out in December and January, but we figured it out in February and we got much, much better. And then we lose Boston, we lose Lahat, right? And it's just like now we're kind of starting over with some other pieces. So I've tried to simplify things on offense. In the off season, I didn't talk about this, but like, what are you doing in the off season? You're trying to get better. You're trying to be a better coach, right? And when you fully like look at, I study this stuff overseas. My background at Utah State was overseas a ton and watched a lot of that stuff, but was over there in the gyms recruiting. But most of my notes, I always laugh because I come back and I'm in the recruiting meetings and I'm trying to find the evals on the players, but it's just all like notes about plays and systems and stuff like that. And I think a lot of it's gone to it's not about the plays you run, it's about having players that make the right plays, right? And make the right reads. So if we can keep it simple, if our spacing is great, if our pace is really good, and you have guys that can get 2 feet in the paint. We used to chart ball reversals, just how many times the ball goes back and forth. Now all we chart is paint touches. And our numbers are very, very good when we get 2 feet in the paint. Like we read it off after every game. We show it after every single week. So offensively, it won't be, we didn't run a lot of sets, but it won't be as many sets. It'll be more read based, read and react based, trying to get, you know, paint touches, dribble drive stuff, some screening, but very, very simple offensively. And when we have guards that can really get downhill, and you surround those guards with very good shooters as well, I think it's going to be really hard to guard. And then defensively, that's all we needed to change, right? We're not forcing turnovers. We were bottom 30 in the country in forcing turnovers and bottom 2 in rim protection. Like that's on me as a coach. And if I don't bring in different players to address those needs, nothing's going to change, right? So sometimes you got to take a step back and be like, man, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And we're bringing these guys in, and the results aren't changing. So we had to bring in 2 rim protectors. We're going to press a lot. We're going to try to speed the game up. If we force more turnovers, we add more possessions for us on offense, right? And if we are really good on offense, which we were last February and March, then we need more possessions in the game to win those games, right? We can't lose possessions because we are turning the ball over and we're not forcing turnovers. So it's going to be chaotic in the full court. I'm talking like different traps. We're pressing off makes and misses. We are going to the glass. And that's the other piece is when you get more offensive rebounds, it creates more possessions. And we were a very good offensive rebounding team. We were a top 100 team in the country last year in rebounding. There were certain games that wasn't great, right? But overall, for the most part, we were a very good rebounding team. But now we're going to try to go get more rebounds. And if we're forcing turnovers, getting more offensive rebounds, that gets our offense more touches and more possessions. And if we have some rim protection, I think our defense is going to get better. So it's going to be chaotic in the full court. I think in the half court, you'll see a lot of the same where we're just going to pack it in and we're going to play personnel. We're very, very conscious of personnel. I didn't think we did a great job of that last year. We just had a scrimmage yesterday and, all we didn't do a whole lot of plays on the other team. It's just like, hey, if we're not supposed to let this guy go right, we can't let him go right. Or if this guy's a shooter, we can't let him catch and shoot on us. Like we got to make him put it on the floor. So it's going to be chaos, full court, half court. Just try to be disciplined and smart. And we have some rim protection behind us. That's a short answer. Just kidding. It's a long answer to the short question.
Coach, I'm going to kind of follow up on that a little bit. So, obviously, if you guys run a lot of pressures on the defensive end, you're going to have to maybe have a lot of depth as far as, getting guys in and out and keeping guys fresh. How long into the season is it going to take for you to kind of get in a flow of, having a rotation that you can count on and, who's going to play, in the to go hockey terminology, the first line and the second line and things like that? How you figure that stuff out as the season goes along?
Is my computer open? Because I'm pretty sure I have our chart behind it from the last scrimmage. And that's all I've been thinking about all day is like how how much time is it going to fully take us to get to where we want to go? And the 4 and 2 helped us, no question. Obviously, the competition playing a Division I team is going to be a lot better than playing guys in Italy that they're in the off season, right? And they're throwing a team together to play us. It can make you look really good, and then you play another Division I team, and it's like, okay, these are our deficiencies. But I legitimately think we can play 11 guys, maybe 12. But I do think probably a month into the season, we're going to know who can fully do it and who's going to play more, right? It's been hard at practice because, certain guys, certain weeks are really good. And then other guys get a little bit better. And then you're trying to juggle the teams. And we've done a lot of even team stuff at practice because we have been so deep. But that's the luxury of having guys come back is I feel like I know what we're going to get out of those guys. And then the new guys are the question, right? How consistent can they be? Who can we play at the end of the game, right? But when you press that much, you have to play a lot of guys. And it's got to be to the point of exhaustion, right? Like, listen, I've told our guys, if you sub yourself out, I'll let you sub yourself back in, right? Because a lot of guys don't want to come out of the game when you're pressing. And then the issue is when they're tired and they make mistakes, that's what hurts our team. Versus, listen, the second you feel like you need a break, just get out of the game. We got somebody else ready to come in that's going to play their tails off for 3 minutes or whatever it is till exhaustion, and then we'll get you right back in. So I think early it's going to be 11 guys, maybe 12 guys. And then after that, I mean, maybe 10 or 11, but we'll see how it goes. But I think the biggest thing is early on, I don't know how long it's going to take us, right? It could look not great the first 4 or 5 games, and it could look great games 6 through 12. But it's going to take us some time to do it and fully understand it's different at practice versus getting on the floor, turning on the scoreboard, putting people in the stands, and doing it against another Division One team. And that's why our scrimmages are against two Division One teams. Like a lot of people play an exhibition game against a non-D1. Like I want to play the best teams to get our team ready for when we got to tip it off against Southern, and we have Commerce coming here, and we have those type of teams. We got to go to Iowa and Nebraska, and Santa Clara is going to be. I mean, a lot of people have them as a sleeper pick to be, a Sweet 16 team or a top 25 team. So we got to play that level. And if we don't do it scrimmage wise, like we're hurting ourselves. So I don't know how long it's going to take to answer your question, but I do know we're going to play a lot of guys. And the scouting report on the Yotes is not going to be great early on because there's going to be a lot of coaches confused on what we're doing and who we're playing, including the fans, right, Mark?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're going to be up there with the roster looking around and charting minutes, and you're going to try to grab a box score from the scores table right in front of you, trying to go through it.
No, I'm not smart enough to do that at all. But you did lead me into my last question for you. Why are secret scrimmages secret? And can you tell us who we beat here last couple of days?
I think a lot of the secret scrimmage stuff is just they don't want information getting out, right? And we're smart. We put in the contract like, listen, if you exchange film on or give out information, like there's a fine, right? With what's happening in the NCAA and the portal stuff, there's so many new things with teams, and the teams are changing a lot too, where I don't think teams want information getting out. And then the other piece that gets tricky is like, okay, 2 years ago we played Tulsa in our first scrimmage and had a chance to beat them. And sometimes you got to play everybody to see what you have. So by us playing 15 guys, we lost a close one to Tulsa. But could we have won the scrimmage? For sure. But what does it mean? Like, that's not going on anybody's resume. That's not going on the website. It really doesn't mean anything. As a coach, what you're trying to do is figure out your team in those scrimmages. So let's say Virginia scrimmages VMI, and Virginia plays their top dudes in one half, and then they don't play their top guy, their top 8 in the other half. And, VMI wins a segment, and VMI they leak it, and it goes to Twitter, and it's like, oh, VMI, and what does it really mean? Nothing, right? So I don't know. I won't tell you who we scrimmage because it's in the contract that I can't. But one of them's an OVC team, another one's a Missouri Valley team, and both the teams are either have been picked really, really high in their league, or they've made the NCAA tournament. So we're going to try to play good teams and get the most out of our guys early on. And as a coach, you sometimes got to show the film on who can do it to the team. And the bad part as a coach is you love everybody in your team, but sometimes you got to show film to guys that can't do it, that have showed that they can't do it in practice, and then in a live situation as well. And I don't know, I'm the type of guy that loves to communicate with our team, and everybody should know where they're at going into the first game, and there shouldn't be any surprises. Like, I think that tears teams apart more than it helps teams, right? Where guys don't know if they're going to play 5 minutes or 15 minutes. Like, you got to be ready to play, and you have to know what to expect when you're going into a game. I think that just clears your mind a little bit more.
Coach, last one from me. Is there now or in the past, has there been a coach or coaches that have kind of inspired you and you kind of shaped your philosophy around, like their philosophy in basketball and in life, and you're trying to instill in the program you have now?
Yeah, I mean, I could look at probably every level I've been at, a coach that's really had an effect on me. The first guy that gave me a job was Terry Olson at Williston State, hired me to be his assistant. And this is a true story. Like, I called, I emailed every coach in the country trying to get a job, right? And the only job that I could get out of college was Williston State College. It was 12 hours from my hometown in La Crosse, Wisconsin. And this was back in the day when you had MapQuest, right? So I MapQuested the directions out, and like it said like 400 miles, but I'd never like driven that far before, right? So I call him, and I think I was in Fargo, and I had my mom's cell phone because I didn't have a cell phone at the time. That's how old I am, right? She's put the cell phone with me, and I call him like, "Hey, coach, I'm in Fargo," and he's like, "Hey, that's great, but you still have 6 more hours." And I just driven 6 hours, and I'm just like, this was for the interview. And I'm like, man, where am I going? Why am I doing this? In my first job, I made $5,000 a year, and I lived in a half of a trailer, not a full trailer. It was literally a trailer cut in half. It was a living room, a kitchen, and like a small bedroom that just had a bed in there. And I learned how to I grew up a lot, right? I learned how to do everything at the junior college level, and I'm very thankful for that. Um, even going to the high major level, like I'm cleaning the floor before practice. I'm running, sprinting to get the balls because we're changing gyms or whatever. It just taught me the ego is out the door. There's nothing too big or too small that you can't do, right? And I really learned a lot about recruiting and building a program through Terry. And I mean, he comes to our games every single year. He's still part of my life, and love the guy for it. And then, Craig Smith, I was with for 4 years here, 3 at Utah State, and 1 year at Utah. And I mean, I have to mention Craig because I was with him for so long, and really learned a ton from Craig just being here. We went through 2 really, really hard years here at the University of South Dakota, and you're questioning like what is going on. Like, hey, I leave a really good job. I was the head coach, and we had to roll up our sleeves and really go to work. And you're trying to build a program, right? And there's a lot of people like, hey, why are we not doing this yet? And some people don't like. You need the right people in your program to fully do it. And by year 3, we had the right people in our program, and we won at a really high level. And the biggest thing I learned from Craig was a worker, no doubt about it. We're both from small towns. I grew up on a farm. Craig grew up on a small, he calls it North Canada, right? Small town. And I would say the biggest thing I learned is not just how to work. Like you got to work every day, and that's probably how I got to South Dakota. But he never had a bad day, and I tell everybody this that asks me about Craig. First week on the job, I'm like, hey, it's his first Division I head coaching job. He's gonna have energy. The first month, it was like, okay, it's the first month. First 6 months, okay, the season's starting. He's gonna still have energy. Then it's like 3 years in, and maybe a little bit that he drank 12 coffees a day, but I never saw him have a bad practice or a bad day, and that taught me like I grew up really really fast. I was a young head coach at Williston. You have to be there for your guys every single day. And when the head coach is consistent, I think the team is consistent, right? And that was Craig's best attribute. Brought energy, enthusiasm, was very positive. And his mom could have been sick. He could have been having family issues. His daughter broke his arm, and he come to practice, and not one person would know. And that's why he's where he's at, right? Obviously, a phenomenal coach, but just brought it every single day. So I think it's less, guys, about like X's and O's, and it's about how hard are you going to work. And there's a lot of people at our level that don't work very hard, and there's a lot of people that work really really hard, and that's how they get to where they are. But it's also having a positive attitude, building relationships, and surrounding themselves with great people, and that's the biggest thing I learned from Craig. So I could go from ADs to other assistants that I worked with, to other head coaches, but we don't have time for all that stuff. But Terry was huge for me. Craig Smith, I mean, he's the godfather of my youngest son. That's how much his family means to us. And at the press conference, I got a little choked up about Craig because he meant so much to our family and still means a ton to our family. And now we're going to have to see his son in the league at another school. So that'll be fun. But really happy for him. And, I'll always stay in touch with Craig and always cheering for them. And if you guys get the chance, they play at the Pentagon on December 21st, Utah versus Iowa. So wear some red. I probably got some old Utah gear in the closet too, if you guys want to wear some Ute stuff, and I'll dish it out to you guys, and I don't know, go yell at the refs or cheer on Craig.
Yeah, and you guys play Iowa earlier in the season, so maybe you can give him some pointers on things he can work on.
Yeah, it's funny how it's worked out. We've played some teams that in the past that they played, like Mississippi State. We played them the year that they played them in the MTE, and like we got Utah Tech this year, Iowa. Like there's just I don't know, we're crossing paths. So I don't go and just like watch a Utah game on TV. Like I got way too much stuff. I got 4 kids to do that. But I've been able to see them on film based on other opponents that we play, which has been awesome. So yeah, we'll try to give them a good preview of Iowa. Iowa's going to be very good. You look at the conferences now and who's picked where, and it's just like, man, if you finish in like the top I don't know, 2/3 of some of these leagues are going to make the NCAA tournament because the conferences are stacked, right? But yeah, Iowa's going to be very good, and Nebraska. I think they just scrimmaged Nebraska in a secret scrimmage, Mark. So I'm sure Craig and I will talk about that before we play them. But yeah, no, excited to get some of those games. I should mention this: like Iowa helps us recruit locally a little bit. Paul Bruns is really excited to play Iowa. And then Nebraska, Coach Ubel, who's been here for this will be his third year, played at Nebraska, was their starting center for Coach Miles and Coach Smith. And then, Mayum Boom is from Lincoln. Lincoln at Nebraska, they have Tristan Simpson on staff, which is awesome. I tried to hire Tristan here. And when he called me and said, Coach, I have a chance to go to Nebraska, I'm like, Tristan, you got to go to that. And then Nebraska's starting point guard, Raleigh Wooster, is a guy that I recruited to Utah State and played for us at Utah. So a lot of connections there, which is awesome. And then the Santa Clara deal is just like, we're out in Utah playing Utah Tech. We had to get another game out there, right? And Christmas, we always want to play on the road when our students are not here. So that's the Santa Clara thing. No connections or anything like that there. But awesome to get some high major games and some bye games against some local teams.
Coach, I got one last question for you. This is a unique place, down in Vermilion. You got kind of a Sioux Falls market, you've got a Sioux City market, you're close to Omaha, but how is it recruiting and being in Vermilion versus some of the other places that you've been? What's so special about USD?
Yeah, I think the cool part about Vermilion, in every place I've been, has been a little bit different. You go to Utah State and a phenomenal student section. Just pull it up on YouTube. It's crazy, their student section, and we got to get something like that going here. It was so hard to beat us in the Spectrum because the students. I think we sold 4,000 student tickets per game, and it wasn't always like that. Winning helps. We got to do our job, but it was just Utah State was about an hour and a half north of Salt Lake City, so they called it the Cache Valley. It was kind of like in its own little. It was surrounded by mountains, right? So it was kind of its own space. So bigger than Vermilion, but different, right? Utah, very commuter school. Our students weren't great. Our game times were tough. Sometimes we play at 5:00, sometimes we play at 6, and our campus was downtown. The hospital was surrounding it, so it made traffic really hard. Parking was really hard, right? And with the commuter school, a lot of the students left on the weekends, right? I would say the biggest thing about Vermilion, when people come and visit, they're really impressed with our facilities. When I show recruits around, we didn't have the muck at Utah State or Utah. You guys know what the muck is? Munster University Center. It's got the food in there. It's got everything's in there, right? They just come and hang out in between classes. The library's attached. That's one of the nicest buildings on our campus, and we didn't have that at Utah State or Utah. They see our facilities and they're like, my goodness. And I tell people this, like in the Mountain West, it'd probably be one of the best facilities in the Mountain West. I know there's been some renovations since. In the Pac-12, Arizona was better. UCLA was better. Who else? Oregon was comparable. Arizona, UCLA, Oregon. Maybe one other school. Like Utah. Utah was top 5, I would say, in facilities. Forgot about them. So it's comparable though. Like you come in, you walk into our facility, it's like, my goodness, this is an awesome place. And I always tell kids, like, you have no excuse not to get better. If you look out my window, you pull the blind, you can see the dorm, right? Like I could throw a rock and hit the dorm. So like if you come here and you're not in the gym all the time, then we got issues. That's my fault for bringing you here, right? But I would say the most important piece, the thing that said the most on visits when I meet with families, is like they love how the town is just connected. You drive around town, there's yote signs everywhere. People will stop and talk to us. Our players, they go to Walmart. I tell this to everybody, there's no pro teams in South Dakota, right? There's a G League team in Sioux Falls, but there's not an NBA team. There's not an NHL team. There's not an NFL team. So our players are they're it, right? So you can go to Walmart and you might spend 30 extra minutes in Walmart talking to people, and that's the special piece. And the parents are smart. Like parents research this stuff, and they might go to Walmart and just start talking to people and ask about our players, our community. And I think the community piece is the most special piece. I did this interview on ESPN radio when I first got hired at Utah. And I had no idea I'd ever come back to Vermillion, South Dakota when I did this interview. We actually bought 2 houses in Salt Lake. We flipped one, moved half a mile away. We were in our dream house, and I'm doing this interview thinking I'm probably going to be there for, I don't know, 7 or 8 years or maybe forever. And the guy's like, "Hey, last question, funny question. Like, what are your 3 favorite restaurants out of any town you've ever lived in?" Because coaches, they travel, they move their families quite a bit. And I start laughing, and he's like, "What?" And I'm like, "Well, all 3 of them are in Vermillion, South Dakota." And he's like, "Stop." And I'm like, "No, they are." Mr. Smith's was number 1. Cafe Brulee. I love Cafe Brulee, because part of it's like sentimental a little bit too. My daughter and I, when she was growing up, we always used to go have. Well, I didn't eat the chocolate chip pancakes, but she loved chocolate chip pancakes. So we'd have like mornings before school, we'd have a little daddy daughter date, and I just something about that little cafe, just cool, right? You can sit there and talk to people, and it just kind of breathes Vermilion right there. And then no longer running, but Red Steakhouse, right? I think it was a COVID casualty where it shut down, but I mean, I've had a lot of steakhouses. I'm from the Midwest, but I've traveled, been to like 40 different countries. I think I've been to 47 states, and I've had steak everywhere. And like Red Steakhouse was it for me. So that was, yeah, what I was trying to tell everybody is like, listen, it's based around the college kids, like the movie theater, downtown, the food, everything is geared around the college. And that's what makes our community so special and so unique. And when the job came open, I couldn't wait to get back to Vermillion. And I told this story at the press conference too. You know, people kind of hear that you're going to be the coach, and it's not out there yet. But I was having dinner at a house, and I was working my way back to the school and the hotel right next to the school. And it took us like an hour and a half to get back to the hotel because there's just people stopping and talking to us. And we'd pull up a little bit further, and the next people are waiting for us. And pretty soon I'm like, man, I still got to write a speech for the press conference. And it's 11:30 at night. But that's what makes this community so special and unique. It's truly about the people. And that's why I love it. And that's why I really wanted to raise my family here. And that's why I really want to cut down the nets and get to the NCAA tournament.
That's happening.
Because
That's
I love
happening.
this place so much.
Let's do it.
It's absolutely happening.
All right, we're all fired up now, Coach.
Yeah, it's what time is it? It's 9:52. It's late at night, and now you guys got to go to bed after we get all fired up.
Yeah, well, that's all right. But hey,
I feel like Bill Murray in Space Jam. Like I feel like just putting on a jersey and just coming in like, what do you need from me, Coach?
Anytime you want to come to practice and get on the pad, right? You can see the 7-footer and see some more bigs and just get on that pad and pat them a little bit. You're always welcome. You got to sign the insurance waiver first, but you can come to practice.
Duly noted.
If you guys see Mark with like a cast over his nose the next volleyball game, it's probably why.
Totally worth it. Totally worth it.
True story, Mark. We had a 7'3" kid at Utah State. His name is Kuba Karwowski. He's from Poland. And we're about to play UNLV, and I'm on the pad, and I'm 6'3" and a half. I list myself at 6'4" on the roster, but guess what? That's where Kuba's elbows are at. So when I'm on the pad's right here, but Kuba would come through, and he just drilled me right in the nose. It's probably broken, but I'm pretty sure I had a concussion from that practice. But that's how, I was seeing stars, and I got back on the pad and just went right back after it because it's Gator, right? You can't go sit in the bleachers for 30 minutes and sit out of practice. You got to get right back into it. So if you come to practice, we expect you in full Gator mode.
Let's go.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
Sneaky athletic. We're going to see about that.
I'm not even going to attempt to come practice with college kids right now. There's no way I would be able to keep up. Well, thanks so much.
I got to throw this out here. That's the other form of GATA, GATA, got a torn Achilles, right? We don't want that to happen. Every staff I've been on, someone tore their Achilles or had a torn Achilles, and that's what we just say, hey, you're GATA. You got a torn Achilles. That's why you turn like 30, you got to shut it down. Like you can't go up and down anymore. You're done. Like you can't be in a scooter with 4 kids rolling around. My wife would be pissed at me. So no, not happening. I'll fire some shots up, but that's about it.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for coming on tonight, Coach. We all had a blast. Hopefully we can get you on again some other time and, mid-season or even near the end of the season, and we can talk a little bit about how everything's going for you.
Let's make it happen. Big week for the Yotes up north.
Yep.
Right? Big week
Yeah,
for us.
Yeah, big week. Got volleyball and football up in Brookings this week. So you guys, first game November 4th, as you mentioned, Southern's coming into Vermilion, SCSC 8:00 p.m. that night. Make sure to get your tickets for that one if you're out there watching. And then a couple more at home, November 6th, that Wednesday, and then Mount Marty's coming in on November 12th, or November 10th, excuse me. So lots of opportunities early in November to see the Yotes in action at the SCSC, see what the team's all about, what we look like this year, and should be fun to see how the team progresses this season, Coach.
Let's get that place rocking. And Mark, you can bring the eye chart too.
I appreciate it. I'll be there. I'll be there.
You will.
Thank you, guys.
Coach is a huge fan of the eye chart. Thanks, Coach.
Go Yotes.
Go Yotes. All right. Well, let's go ahead and move on to the rest of our recap for the show here. Next up, we are going to dive into the results of the football game from Saturday. Youngstown State hosted the University of South Dakota team on Saturday evening, and kickoff time, it was 6:02 p.m., but that was Eastern. It was actually 5 o'clock. And the Yotes kind of got off to a rough start here, Mark. I don't know. You watched the game. What were your thoughts on how things happened?
I think maybe it's a little bit of a recurring theme with the Yotes so far this year. The first drive of the opposing team has been successful. And not only did we fall behind 7-0, we ended up falling behind 14-0. So, I mean, you get a little nervous, especially with the history at Youngstown. We've never won there. But the guys responded, outscored them 24-3 the rest of the way, or 27-3, whatever it ended up being. And so I think you take that, spotting them 14 on the road, Missouri Valley Football Conference. I know history doesn't play a part in the game, but there is some history there, and there could be some, oh crap, here we go again type mentality. And we responded well and ended up with a double-digit victory. I'll take that. I'll take it.
Yeah, final score was 27-17. South Dakota improves to 6-1 on the season and 4-0 in conference. Youngstown State drops to 2-6, 1-3 in conference. As far as the scoring goes, Mark mentioned that Youngstown actually got off to a 14-0 lead. They did have a 15-yard touchdown pass on that opening drive, 6 minutes or so drive on that one, 82 yards, drove down the field and scored. And then in the second quarter, also had another 8-minute drive where they drove the ball 13 plays, 81 yards, and scored. And then USD responded with a Karan Adams 48-yard pass from Aiden Bauman, and then Charles Pierre Jr. 21-yard run. And so right before half, it was 14-14, and then Youngstown was able to get in field goal range and kick a 39-yard field goal to go into the break with a 17-14 lead. Second half, though, all the scoring was with USD's favor. Will Leyland kicked a 23-yard field goal in the third quarter. Charles Pierre Jr. had a 50-yard touchdown run. And what was that?
50.
50 yards. And then Will Leyland had a 35-yard field goal to close it out and make it a 10-point lead at the end. So, a couple statistics from the game. Aiden Bauman finished 12 for 18 for 223 yards and 1 touchdown. JJ Galbraith, friend of the show, had 3 receptions for 79 yards. Carter Bell, 4 receptions for 57. Karan Adams, as I mentioned, had the 48-yard touchdown catch. He also had 1 carry, like a reverse play where he got 30 yards. And then I think there was a 15-yard penalty tacked on to the end of that one, too. So pretty big play there. And then Charles Pierre Jr. Carrying the load on the rushing attack for the Yotes, had 21 carries for 153 yards and 2 touchdowns. Defensively for the Yotes, Dennis Shorter had 7 tackles, also low, and 2 pass breakups. And Mikey's Grace had 7 total tackles, 1.5 tackles for loss, 1.5 sacks, and 2 quarterback hurries. and just was in the Youngstown backfield all night long.
Outstanding.
He was everywhere.
Any other comments on the game here, guys? I know we went a little long with Coach Pete, but anything else to add on the big win there?
Yeah, so just kind of looking back, I was at a wedding reception, so I was in and out watching, but then looking at the stat sheet afterwards. And I think we talked about this off air. This is a game that teams past have lost. Like, they don't win this game. The offense, and Chad, you had the numbers there too, but it's pretty solid offensive numbers. It was a slow start, but they ended the game on a 27-3 scoring run. The defense showed up. It's always that first drive. And I remember at their D-Days, the first drive, and I might have mentioned this last episode, but there's gals behind me that were like, well, I was told that our defense is good. And I wanted to turn around and just be like, just have patience. It's like Northern State when they started at like the 4-yard line. They drove all the way down the field and got a field goal. They didn't score the rest of the game. It's like, just have patience. And I think that's the biggest thing with this Yote squad is like, we have not been spoiled, unfortunately, where we should be thinking, oh God, we're going to lose this. Like, this is the new norm now. Like, this offense is great. This defense is great. We have great depth. I mean, the running game, what was the total rushing yards? I just had it pulled up. Give me one sec here. 192 rushing yards, and Tice is out.
And 20 some at halftime. So
yeah. So I think a road win in a place we've never won before, I will absolutely take it. I'm not going to say anything other than from what I did see is maybe a little bit of sleepwalking, with the big game coming up this weekend. But I am absolutely confident in this team going into Brookings. It's going to be one hell of an atmosphere. I think it's a sellout. There's going to be a lot of red, with our allotment that USD gets. There's going to be a lot of red there to support. But it's a top 5 matchup in the FCS, and I'm looking forward to this. This is a good measuring stick for the squad. And I think, well, for one, I think we can make the joke all in fair play here. I think we will score a touchdown this game against them.
One thing, real quick, I'll add to there was a lot of people that were like, wow, we were sleepwalking and maybe it was a disappointing performance. But 2015 was the last time in the Missouri Valley that we came back from a 14-point deficit. So, and that was against North Dakota State. Miles Bergner, legend.
Do we have a stat of the day section? Like can we do it, brought to you by Wakanda Peach Company?
We should. But so, I mean, yeah, history was made there in more ways.
Well, we're gonna talk a little bit more about the upcoming game here in just a few moments. But volleyball, as we mentioned earlier, was also at home. Went 2-0 on the week and improving the season record to 13-5, 5-2 in the Summit League. Thursday hosted Kansas City, and Kansas City's having a rough season this year. But the Yotes were able to take that one 3-1. 25-17 in the first one. I don't think it was that close. 25-20 in the second one. Once again, that one seemed like Kansas City kind of had a little run at the end there to make it look closer than it was. So I feel like those first two were pretty much domination by the Yotes. And then the third one was a little bit of a letdown, letting Kansas City win that one 25-21. But then came back and just dominated that fourth set, 25-11. To close out the match. And that's exactly what they needed at that point. Attendance for that one, it was a light crowd, but it was still over 1,000. So 1,040 was the official number for attendance on that one. Saturday at the SCSC hosted NDSU. And this one started out great as for the Yotes as well. 25-17, 25-13. And Mark, you were there. You said that neither of those were even that close.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was dominating the first two sets, and I jinxed the Yotes by texting Jordan and be like, yeah, Yote volleyball's back, and then sets 3 and 4 happened, but so that's on me. But yeah, no, it wasn't that close. We were absolutely dominating the first two sets, and you're really, sitting there, you think, well, this is going to be over in 3, and I can get to pregame beer 3 for the football game here real quick, but ended up going 5.
Yeah. So NDSU ended up coming back and winning the third 27-25, and then the fourth 25-23. And looking back at those, it's not like the Yotes did a lot of things incredibly wrong in either of those. It was each team was just kind of going back and forth and trading points here and there, and neither team was able to get off to an extended stretch where they were able to take over, and so NDSU tied it up at 2-2, and then USD was able to close it out 15-13, tight one there in the fifth set. Attendance was listed at 1619. There were a bunch of middle schoolers there from Sioux Falls, I believe, to kind of brighten the atmosphere a little bit and provide some cheering. And any crowd report there from Saturday, Mark?
Yeah, no, much better on Saturday. You mentioned the middle schoolers who they said were from Sioux Falls, but someone mentioned that George Mickelson Middle School, and I didn't know where that was. Someone said that's in Brookings, South Dakota. And no one's corrected me on that. I tweeted that out. But no, they were fantastic. They were loud from the first serve until match point. It was fantastic. They did a great job. They're welcome back anytime.
Jordan, isn't Mickelson kind of on the west side of Sioux Falls? Is that
no? But George Mickelson is in Brookings.
It's in Brookings. Well, goodness gracious. Yeah. Good for them for coming down. All right. Well, that was volleyball this past week. So what's coming up? Well, first off, the Summit League standings to be updated here. SDSU 7-0, Omaha 6-1, USD's 5-2. Firmly in control of that third place spot right now. Mm-hmm. At 5-2, St. Thomas 4-4, Denver down to 3-4, and then everyone else is kind of down a little bit lower than that. But coming up this week, a couple soccer matches at home. Thursday, the 24th, Oral Roberts is coming to town, 6 p.m. match up there. And then Sunday, the 27th, Denver is coming to town for that Summit League finale. That'll be at 1 p.m. Football, as we mentioned earlier, is playing at South Dakota State up in Brookings, and that will be a 6:30 p.m. kickoff, and I believe it's scheduled for ESPNU. So if you want to watch, if you're not able to get a ticket and go to the game, you can watch on ESPNU. And then volleyball is kind of a weird week for them, a strange week. They're at South Dakota State on Tuesday night. Seeing that number one team, hopefully knocking them off at 7 p.m. The next one is Thursday. They'll be home versus Denver at 7 p.m. And there's tickets on sale right now, $5 flash sale for any tickets. So go out and get tickets for that one. Be a part of the action with what's going on in the SCSC for Coyote volleyball. And then Saturday, they're taking the trip down to Kansas City, stop at Joe's and get some barbecue, and then take on the Roos there at 1 p.m.
Tough stretch.
Anything else? Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say tough stretch there. 3 games in 4 days, looks like. So, and South Dakota State being undefeated as of yet. So it'd be real nice to put an end to that. And then, like you mentioned, the Denver game, $5 tickets for 48 hours. And I'm sure some of those hours have ticked off. So buy your tickets as soon as possible and let's make it rowdy.
Yeah, and
it's been a long time since SDSU has beaten USD in volleyball. I'm not going to say the number because I'm not jinxing it, but it's a long time.
Yep.
I don't believe in jinxes, but I was going to say if you're looking for extra credit points in a class, maybe stop down in section 106 and take a selfie with Mark there on Thursday night as well. So,
who the bleep is Mark Went?
All right. Well, without further ado,
and that's just what they wanted to do there. And all things considered, again, as you see the iChart cardboard cutout, how appropriate.
Through the review, the iChart made its way to the video board. It really injected some energy.
Yeah, that gets me fired up every single time.
Every time.
Let's go. All right. So Mark went infamous for holding up his eye chart at basketball games when officials make questionable calls. So we are going to share some of our questionable calls, whether they're on the field, court, or just in life in general, that we have seen or noticed over the past week. Mark, tell us the results of last week's eye chart of the week real quickly.
I would be very happy to. So I'm off the schneid. The winner last week is the re-entry people at the Dome, which is surprising to me. I thought I would get a more cold reception to that. Re-entry people won with 52.2% of the vote. Tie for second, drinkers and drivers, and the fan submission of fan put down to players finished with 17.4%. And Jordan's Instagram mom finished with 13% of the vote. So
congrats on the big W there, Mark.
Good luck.
Yeah, Mark.
Good luck. Good luck.
Put the W and win.
All right. Well, Jordan, since you finished last, why don't you go ahead and give us your eye chart of the week for this week?
Yeah, so folks, it was actually a pretty good week as far as dealing with normal people and not jerks and stuff. So this one is just for lack of dealing with that, I guess. But my eye chart of the week goes to Kelsey on Twitter. Responded to a USD football highlight video of like I think I'm paraphrasing here, but the caption was like ready to get to work again in preps of the game. And it was highlights of D-Days when we were in black uniforms against UNI. And Kelsey from Twitter is a state fan, SDSU fan. And once again, like a lot of them, they made it about themselves and was like, why are you using highlights from the state game in 2023 when there weren't that many to begin with? And luckily, USD fans that are not colorblind quickly put him in his place. And again, I'm all for trash talking, especially with the rabid bunny fans from Brookings. But that one was a little bit like, bro, there's still time to delete this tweet. So that's my eye chart of the week. Kelsey from Twitter.
Just amazes me sometimes what people feel like they have to put out there on Twitter, but it is what it is.
The ability to speak does not make you intelligent.
Yeah. I'll go ahead and go next. My eye chart of the week for this week. Annually, I post something where I'm a little bit disappointed in the South Dakota High School Activities Association because they do schedule the last high school football game of the week of the year on a Thursday night every single year. For some reason, it happens. Whatever the reason is, my kids are both in all-state chorus. I support the arts and everything else. Jordan's wife is a band director, for crying out loud. You can't say that we don't support arts. But there has never been a book called Thursday Night Lights or a TV show or a movie. No, it's Friday Night Lights, folks. High school football is meant to be played on Friday night. South Dakota High School Activities Association, having these kids play on Thursday night, you get the eye chart of the week.
Excellent. Excellent nominee. Excellent nominee.
Absolutely.
It makes zero sense. All right, so to follow up my victory this past week, I'm going to nominate, many of you will remember if you were on social media at all, I believe it was the week 1 Florida State game after they had lost over in Ireland or wherever they played Georgia Tech. Florida State lost that first game. A Florida State fan famously tweeted out that if they lose the following week to Boston College, that he will eat dog poo and record it. Florida State ended up losing to Boston College, and the guy deleted his Twitter account and disappeared from. Chad, what are you doing?
I don't want to look at this. Go ahead.
So Florida State I think they're 1-6 now. It's not good. So our friend JD Ventura here posted that if they lose to Duke, he will indeed break the curse and do the deed. And in a now deleted Twitter post. I'm not sure if his account is still active, but he indeed did eat some dog poo. It certainly appeared by the video, and the last words on the video were, I don't know if it was his sister or girlfriend or someone asked as he ran off camera, "Are you okay?" That's the last we've heard from DJ here. So DJ gets my eye chart of the week. I think there's some better choices that could be made there, and Chad doesn't believe in curses. I think maybe Florida State is cursed, but there must be a better way to break that. So DJ gets my eye chart of the week.
We've had 2 major hurricanes, and things have kind of started spiraling out of control in this the world since he made that promise. I'm not gonna lie.
I have no words. I don't know.
That's incredible.
All right. Well, those are our nominees for this week's eye chart of the week. Go ahead and vote on Twitter. Did you guys notice Coach Pete also calls it Twitter? He doesn't call it X.
It's Twitter.
Yeah, it's Twitter. So
I also said X and Twitter in the opening monologue. So screw it. Like, whatever.
Mark, I think you had one last announcement you wanted to share here as well.
Yeah. So this past week, Hannah Shervin, USD lore and future Hall of Famer, had her first baby. Sophia Olive, great middle name, terrible food. Slater was born on the 14th of October. So congratulations to Hannah and her husband on the new baby girl.
Future Yote.
Yeah, Hannah, congrats. Man, life's going to change. Life's completely different now. So good luck with everything there. That's awesome. All right. Well, do you guys have any parting comments before we take off?
I thought Coach Peach was awesome. I can't wait to root for him this year. He's an A+ guy. So really excited for basketball season.
Yep, I'll echo it. I think it's hard for media with the transfers and stuff to truly vote. So I think from here on out, like even last year preseason polls, it's so hard with everyone coming in. But just to Coyote fans, this team will be exciting, just like last year. And if you don't remember, he was right. February, March, they really started to pick things up. And this will be a continuation of it. So while the weather's good, while the winter's good in November, go see the men's team. Go see the women's team too, but we had PD on tonight. So go see the men's basketball team. They will be very exciting to watch.
100%.
Absolutely. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in tonight. For Jordan Decker, for our first time eye chart of the week champion, Mark Wentz. I'm Chad Berger. Until next time, go Yotes.
Go Yotes.